Hello everyone, what's up and welcome back to a new video. Today I will be discussing all the books that I read in July and August. I think I'm not gonna deeply explain these books. I'm just gonna give you like a rundown of what they are, because I hate explaining to you what the books are about. Let's just put it out there. So we're gonna start off with my DNFs for the 2 months. The first book was How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. I got for 50% into it and I just didn't care, so unfortunately it's DNF. The next one was The Record Keeper. My expectation for this book was a bit too high. I couldn't get into it and I'm so sorry. The book is basically centered around World War III, and the female main character, she's a stickler for rules, but unfortunately one character comes into play where he makes her question everything that she has believed and that she has been raised on. And I thought it was going to be more of a Silver Elite kind of effect with this book, where you go through the whole story and you learn with the characters about the world and everything, but the storytelling was just too dense for me and I didn't enjoy it as much. So unfortunately I had to DNF that one because I'm not wasting my time on books that I'm not enjoying. So now we get to the books that I read. The first one was The Lunatic Cafe by Laurel K. Hamilton. This is a story about a vampire hunter who is usually roped into vampire killings, or she has to solve some sort of disappearance or murder. Even though I like Laurel K. Hamilton's books, this book just fell a bit flat for me. So I'm gonna give it a 3-star. It's not that I didn't enjoy the plot, I just didn't enjoy the subplot centering around Anita and her boyfriend. And then the book ended on such a weird way, like the ending was rushed. So yeah, didn't really enjoy this one, but I did enjoy the plot of it. The main plot is what I was going for. Then I read The Shepherd King duology. I gave this one a 3-star and this one a 4-star. This is basically about a girl who has a monster inside her head, but then she is tossed into a group of misfits who are trying to find tarot cards to save this world that they are living in, which is called Blunder. And it's very gothic-y, it's nice if you read it in the spooky season. I would definitely enjoy this more during the spooky season. But I don't know, the first book was just okay for me. I was intrigued enough to continue. I did enjoy it while I was reading it, but every time I put it down, I was like, I don't want to pick it back up again. And I feel the same was with the second book, but it happened more with the first book. The second book, I was more intrigued by the subplot of the two characters' romance. I don't want to say any more because I'm just scared of spoilers in everything. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I did enjoy the second book more than the first book. Then I finally finished the Shadowhunter series together with my bestie, because we were doing the Shadowhunter series read along. And so in the month of July, I finished both Chain of Gold and Chain of Thorns. I lie, Chain of Iron. And Chain of Thorns. I really enjoyed this book. This one is by far my favorite. The yearning and the craziness at the end of this book was just so good to me. I did enjoy this one too, but I feel like the wrap up or the ending where you get to the boss level was a bit rushed. And so I felt a bit underwhelmed by the story, or essentially by the issue around what happened. But I really still enjoy it. I'm happy for the happily ever after that happened to all of the characters. I just now realized some of them didn't get it. But you know, it's a start. Somewhat of a start. But yeah, this is by far my favorite of the series, and then it would be the Infernal Devices, then the Mortal Instruments, then the Dark Artificers. I really didn't like those books, I'm sorry to say. Then I read We Were Lies by E. Lockhart. It's essentially a YA thriller about this girl and her friends who spent a summer on their island, because they have this big family island, and then one summer something happens and then the main character just has a whole lot of gaps in her mind, but she does experience flashbacks until everything comes together for her. This was a really good book. I gave it 3 stars. I really enjoyed the story. There was some predictability in this book, but I also watched the show and I really enjoyed the show more, mainly because I feel like I felt more emotion from the characters on the show than I felt in the books, because in the book you only follow Cadence and in the show you basically follow all the characters through their journey. Then I read 2 of the Alibis collection on Amazon. The first one was Death Row by Frida McFadden. I can understand the hype behind Frida McFadden now. Actually, I shouldn't be doing that analysis when I've only read this one book of her, but that was a wild ride from start to finish. We start with this woman who is on death row for the murder of her husband, and then she discovers that one of the people's lawyers, or comes to pray for them before they are sentenced to death, that is actually her husband. And she's trying to prove to everyone that that is her husband and that she did not kill him, and nobody wants to believe her. So yeah, I did give it 3 stars because I was intrigued by the whole story, but the ending just felt flat for me. If I had more information and if I had more things to go around, maybe a 200-page book around the situation, I think it would have been good. Maybe a higher star. Then I read The Ex-Wives Club by Sally Hempworth, and this centers around a very famous chef in Australia who is found murdered in his like ice freezer thing, and all the ex-wives, because he has 3, are suspects, but they all have alibis, so the police cannot prove anything of the sort that they were actually behind these murders. Also gave it a 3-star. It was enjoyable. I did like the twist. Again, just felt like I just needed a bit more from the story. Then I listened to The Kings and Consorts. I believe it's a trilogy by Poppy St. James. I received the advanced listeners copies from one of the narrators, and I really enjoyed these books. I think Twisted Devotion, which is the first book, I gave 3-star because this was like really my introduction to dark romance, and I was like, what is happening here? I was like flustered. I didn't know what to expect, but essentially we follow a main character who works with her father in this crematorium. They cremate bodies, and she discovers that her father is in league with a criminal that's around the area where he will kill people and then take their bodies to her father so that he can cremate them for a certain price. And so she and this criminal kind of first they butt heads. He kind of stalks her, and then it just becomes into this obsession. And yeah, it was interesting. So 3-star. Then Sinful Temptation was about this young girl who is being married off to a very high-standing family in the mafia world, I believe, but she falls in love with the father instead of the son. The father is instantly very protective over this woman because she's going to be part of the family, and he just does a lot of dark things to protect her from her abusive brother. But that was a 4-star because I really enjoyed the banter between the two, the tug and pull, push and pull, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, 4-star. And I think I'm slowly becoming a dark romance girly. The next book was Slapshot by Chelsea Kurto. This is the 3rd book in the DC Store series. I really loved this book. This was a 5-star for me. And this follows one of the Golden Retriever ice hockey players in the DC Stars books. I forgot his name. And he is looking for a private chef, and our female main character has just been laid off of her work from a very hoity-toity food place in Vegas, so she moves in with him, so it's forced proximity, you know, all that kinds of good things. He just takes care of her and her daughter because she has a 6-year-old daughter, and it's just so good. This was like so far one of my favorites in the series. Then I read Shield of Sparrows by Daphne Perry, and this was my favorite of July. I really love this book so much. I think everyone knows what Shield of Sparrows is about. I don't think I'm going to give this book justice in explaining it to you, so I'm just going to say it's romantasy. It is so good. I really love this book, and yeah, because it's my favorite, I'm going to give it a 5-star, 6-star even. But I really enjoyed this book. It definitely had that good romantasy that I have been yearning for, and the world building was just so lush and so beautiful, and I loved this book so much. The next book I read was Silver Elite by Danny Francis, and this is basically a dystopian book about this girl who is trying to hide her psychic abilities from the government, because if they discover that she has psychic abilities, she will be killed. But then somehow she lands herself one of the training camps for an army, and so she has to hide her abilities further, while trying to infiltrate this compound. It does have a certain feel for Divergent if you are looking for an adult Divergent, but I won't go as far as saying it is definitely a Divergent story. It has elements of that, but it's not like a specific, oh yes, this is Divergent, you know? But I gave it 4 stars because I really enjoyed it. The first part was really slow for me. I couldn't get into the first part of the book. I don't know, there was a self-pitying moment with the character and I was just like, okay, whatever. And I don't know, she acted weird, so I couldn't gel with her in the beginning. It's the way the story is told. I just remembered and the way the narrator read the book, I don't know, it was very annoying to me, so I couldn't get into the book. I just remembered right now. Eventually I put that aside and I read it physically, and I think I enjoyed it more reading it physically than reading it with the audio. Then my bestie, I read When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. This one was a 3-star. So we're following this guy who was looking for Baba Yellowlegs. I think she's the one with the chicken house, or the chicken that has, no, the house that has chicken feet on it. That witch. He's looking for her because there's a certain curse that he wants to relieve himself from. And along the way, you meet these 2 very peculiar characters that are trying to help him, but in the end feel betrayed by him. That's the short end of that book. But yeah, it's very dense in lore. I cannot remember what lore, but it's very dense in Polish lore. And it was good. I really liked it. I think this was a very good 3-star type of book. Then I read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I was so excited for this book. I've seen a lot of people rant and rave about this book, and I was so disappointed. I am so sorry to say that I gave this book 2 stars. I couldn't care in the end what the hell happened to Charlotte, what happened to Alice, what happened to, what's her name? Sabine? I just couldn't give 2 damns about these characters. Essentially, this book follows Sabine, who turns into a vampire because she, you know, doesn't want to fit in with the norms of the world in the 1600s or the 1500s. Then we follow Lottie. She's also running away from her past because some things happened. She was more based in the Regency era. I'm sorry if you can see this. It's too warm not to leave the windows open. And then we also follow Alice, who is in the modern world and was recently bitten. I understand the premise. I've seen a lot of videos where people explain why the one hungers for this and why the other one hungers for that. I don't know. I couldn't care. The storytelling for me was very lazily done. To go through the day-to-day lives of Sabine and Lottie and Alice, and I was like, I don't care. So yeah, unfortunately that was a 2-star. If you love this book, I'm very happy for you. Then I read Vows and Ruins by Helen Troyer. This is the 2nd book in the Warriors of Desmar series. The first book is Blood and Steel, where we follow Thea, who wants to become a war sword. Even though she's a woman and she's not allowed to, she desperately wants to become one. So one day she's caught practicing in secret drills with the guys, and she goes on this journey where she wants to ask the king to allow her to train as a war sword, and she is granted that, and this is just her journey of training to become that war sword. The second book, however, I was quite disappointed in this one. Blood and Steel was really rich in fantasy elements and high stakes, and things are just going so wrong so completely all the time, but it was a fun time. Vows and Ruin was more spice than anything else. I was just like, this is not what I signed up for. Sometimes I think you can agree that yes, a book with a bit of spice is fun. There were a lot of spice scenes, like over 10 spice scenes in this book, and I was like, did we really need this? I just felt a bit disappointed in this book. I did like the ending though. I do think it's set up nicely for the next books. I'm just scared of continuing with the books because one of my friends also mentioned that they read the first book, really enjoyed it, but from the second book on it was like, you know, I think I gave it a 3.5 star. 3.5 or 4 star is what I gave this book. So it's not bad. It's just I wanted less by scenes and more fantasy elements, not romantasy. The next book I read was an ARC called Uninvited by Emily Shiner. I'm also excited because I got the second book on an ARC too, and I'm so excited for this one. Calm down, Natasha. Just whoosah. Okay, so for this book, I gave it 4 stars. This is a psychological thriller following a woman who is going with her fiance on a holiday to basically patch up their relationship because she found him cheating on her, until she climbs in a cab and the woman he cheated on her with joins them on this holiday. It's messy, but it is so good. I wasn't annoyed by the characters at some point because they were just being so petty the whole time. There was a reason behind these characters' actions, and it does make sense in the end. It was just so annoying in the beginning. I was just like, okay. Then I read the Fates Thread duology. I think it could be a series, who knows, by Sophie Kim. The first one was The God and the Gumio, which I gave 4 star. So this is about a jester god called Sokka who meets a nine-tailed fox called Honey, and they work together to try and solve a mystery. But Honey is keeping a secret from Sokka because she is actually the person who killed the people in the first place. Only the first time. The next few murders actually occurred by something or someone else, and they are trying to investigate that. Really enjoyed this one. This gives kind of like K-pop Demon Hunters vibes, which I really enjoyed. Gave it 4 star. And then we get to The God and the Guisin, which is the second book in this series story thing. No. I mean, it wasn't bad. Let me put it like that. It really wasn't bad. I did like some of the elements. I don't want to say a lot because it gives massive spoilers for the first book, but I like some of the character elements. It is unfortunate that the book ended the way it did because it gives the impression that there's more books coming, and my biggest question is why. That was a 3 star. The next book I read was The Bear of Secrets, and this is about a girl who is swept into another realm where she is raised to fight off an evil Dark Lord. The problem, what I found with this book, is the storytelling was a lot of info dumping, and it was also a lot of too high fantasy, and the characters were explained in such a way that it seems like there had to be a prequel to make these characters make sense, because they were written in a way that you should know who these characters are, and I didn't enjoy that. The dialogue was also very jarring at times. There's a lot of telling in this book and not a lot of showing, but I do see the potential in the series. So if you like high fantasy and very confusing starts to books, maybe try this one out, but I gave it a 2 star, unfortunately. And then the last book that I read, which was also my favorite of August, was When the Tides Held the Moon. I love this book. Your introduction to this book is, if you like TJ Klune, you will like this book. I'm pretty sure. It has all the elements of TJ Klune's writing, and it also has this fantastical element. It's historical fantasy, and it's just so good. I don't know how to explain this book to you, but I will try. So we get this human who is very good at creating like iron stuff with iron in the 1800s, and so he is asked to create like it almost looks like a tank. He's asked to create this thing, and then he goes on an adventure where he kind of abducts a mermaid from the ocean, and he eventually starts to get to know this mermaid, and these two fall in love, and it's such a beautiful story. I love the ending of this one. 4.5 out of 5 star because it wasn't completely a 5 star, but it was good. It was very, very good. And that brings us to the end of this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe. Let me know down below what book was your favorite between July and August, or give me both, and I'll see you in a video when I see you. Bye.